Thank you for joining us once again. This is the Allon Exchange with Jay and Brittany Hagee, both financial advisors and the founders of Allon Planning Partners. I'm Spike Spangle, and today, oh boy, we're really going to lean into it. You do this all of the time at your live events. You are financial planners together.
Yes.
You are married. You have kids together. But now we're going to talk about couples in money today and why it is so important. Boy, you talk about this all the time. Do you get all kinds of questions at your live events? Do you have fun doing the Couples in Money seminar?
Oh, we love doing it. It's a lot of fun. But what's the most fun is seeing the light bulbs come on for folks when they're thinking, or when they say, man, I never thought about that, or I never looked at it from that perspective, or I thought he was covered if something happened to me. You know, bringing those things to light so folks really are best prepared. That's what we love the most.
Or asking those questions like, how do you guys navigate these questions? Like, how do you guys navigate spending plan and disagreements and what's going on in your world? And it's fun to like let people in a curtain in an appropriate way and see like, hey, here, listen, we're real people too. We have struggles, we have disconnections on some things and disagreements, but at the end of the day, we come together for the greater good and the larger purpose of getting to the goals that we have. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, that's what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about how couples really navigate through that and how they make financial decisions. And we came across this study, very interesting, and it talks, Fidelity did it, and it talks about how couples handle their money. And it's interesting because you have to really temper expectations with reality here, because out of all this study done, nearly 9 in 10 couples said they communicate well. But more than 1 in 4 partners resent being left out of financial decisions. So they may think they communicate well, but one or the other is thinking, man, well, he made that decision without
okay, so what kinds of financial, do you mean just the investment decisions like my own 401k, or what other kind of decisions can I make on my own?
No, I mean, even larger decisions, and we've talked about this previously, like Social Security placement. Like, when do I draw Social Security? When does Brittany draw Social Security? Because that's going to affect each other. Statistically, I'm going to predecease her, and if that happens, we need to make sure that we're optimizing our Social Security income so that she gets the largest of the two when we take it. So it's not that we should make these decisions in a bubble. So we should not leave each other out of these decisions that will affect one or the other somewhere down the road, living or gone.
And I know we're doing the TV show here, but I do want to pull back, because you said the word curtain. I want to pull back your curtain a little bit as well. Is it easier to talk about these financial topics because you are both financial advisors, or does it actually make it a little hard? It's like 2 expert coaches on the field. That Brittany, you've got your thoughts.
Well, here's the beauty of it. We have different perspectives. We agree on a lot of the big things, but we really do have varying perspectives. So we can relate to couples that come in and they're just like, man, we just can't see eye to eye on this. Well, we get it, because there's a lot of things we can't see eye to eye on. So you have to be creative in how you navigate through those things, because you want to make sure you're making those decisions in light of the bigger picture. Like Jay said, you don't want to make them just looking with a narrow lens or just looking at just one individual decision at a time, but looking at, when I file for Social Security, how is this going to impact our bigger picture, our income, if something happens to one of us? When I'm electing a pension, am I considering if it continues to my spouse, or am I just getting the larger number because I think that would be better for us, right? It's considering all those options and really doing it together.
And we're not perfect, but we have ground rules, right? We've set aside a portion of money that says, hey, you can spend that without thinking about our spending plan. I can spend this without thinking about our spending plan, right? But we have ground rules on that. That's a small example. But here's how we lead, and everybody has to run their relationships the way that they can to make it work the best for them. But from a relationship standpoint, what we tell people, it's always 2
yeses
and 1
no.
2 yeses and 1 no.
That's right.
And here's what that means. If we're having a disagreement on something, and it's a large one, it's going to affect our financial future, 2 yeses, 1 no. We do not move until we get 2 yeses. And that's okay. We don't want to sit in it forever and think about it forever. We're going to process through one way or another. But to make sure that we are on the same team, even though we're 2 headstrong coaches on the field at sometimes, we do not move forward until we have both of those yeses on the field, because it is too important what we're doing with our financial future for each other and for our children to just make willy-nilly decisions that are going to affect each other for the rest of our life.
But hear me, that doesn't mean you always have to agree. That's unrealistic expectations.
It just may take time to come to an agreement.
That's a fallacy. That's not going to happen. So what we like to talk about is establish the non-negotiables. What are some things that as a household, as a couple, for those of you that are on your own, what are those non-negotiables for you to where you know, man, this is central to our financial picture. This is central to our household. And these are the non-negotiables. Agree on those things. Get on the same page on those things. There's going to be other smaller decisions or approaches or preferences when it comes to your money and spending and investing, looking at your future, that you're going to have differences on. But you can reconcile that. It's okay to have those differences as long as your non-negotiables remain intact.
I think one of the things that I also got from the study was be careful about secret spending. And that's not sharing these things. Now, my girl and I, we have separate accounts. But the Amazon delivery person comes by our house so often, I think I'm going to invite him to the wedding. Seriously, I know this guy. Hey, Bert, how you doing, man? You know, what's going on? Oh, boy, do you want lunch now, too? We had breakfast together before. But not sharing our spending, keeping things secret. Couples don't all have to have the exact same accounts. We can't have some separate spending. But keeping things from one another, is this something that's healthy in a long-term relationship?
If you're married, you're on the same team. Our finances should reflect that. Our finances should reflect that we are working together to achieve common goals. That's part of why I married Jay. Because I want to be connected with him. I want to be united with him. We have like mission, like vision, like desires, like interests. And so I want to work towards those together with him.
Well, because it's about communication. I mean, that's what the first statistic shows, that we think we communicate well, but we're being left out on these decisions. So maybe we're not communicating so well. So it's about having appropriate communication. You can have separate funds, you can have separate desires and both go after different things. That's okay. I think it's the way you communicate them and that you have a healthy relationship in the way that each other sees your accounts. Because like you said, you're going to be in situations sometimes where, hey, I want to save for this particular thing in my life. I want to save for a motorcycle. Let's just say I don't right now, but let's say Brittany may be like, I don't want anything to do with that, right? But we have a communication that says, okay, here's what we will agree on to get you to that goal if that's what you want.
And I think Brittany's communication might be, go ahead, buy that motorcycle, and you sleep on the couch for the rest of the year. Folks, we joke about this, and Jay and Brittany love to do the partners seminar where you come in together and you can talk about these things. But look, the statistics are real. It's one of the largest pressures that happens on a marriage is things that have to do with finances. Don't let that happen to you. Talk to somebody who is independent of both of you, who can take a look at your situation and say, let's make a plan together. We can have separate things that we want to do, but let's share the main goals together and make sure that we're both on the same page. If you would like to get started on your own Allon approach, if you're serious about retirement planning, do yourself a favor. Call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen. Claim your own appointment. There's no cost to come in and sit down with Jay and Brittany. There's no cost to get started on your own plan. If you've been wondering, though, and this is one of the first times you've tuned into the program and want to know exactly what the Allon approach means, watch this following message. We'll be right back in a few seconds.
Allon means oak tree, and when we began this firm 7, 8, 9 years ago, something like that, we were searching, trying to determine what do we really want to build this foundation on? How do we want to depict and share this mission that we have with the world? What does this look like?
And so as we were processing through what should be the grounding factor, the name of our company, Allon really stood out. It's actually the Hebrew word for oak tree.
And we knew that the oak tree was going to be the symbol for what we are, how we operate, because those are the kinds of financial plans we want to create.
And so Allon comes from the Psalms, where it talks about the tree that is planted by the water that has deep roots that even in times of drought, this tree can sustain life and it bears fruit in every season.
That really became the foundation and the mantra of our firm. Why we do what we do, who we are, how we operate.
We want to create plans for people with deep roots that even in times of turmoil it hits their life. Maybe it's a death in their family. Maybe it's another financial crisis. Maybe it's COVID, and something that we can't even see coming, but the roots are so deep that they bear fruit in all seasons because we have a plan for every season of life.
Welcome back to the Allon Exchange with Jay and Brittany Hagee, both financial advisors and partners of Allon Planning Partners right here in Tennessee. And we are talking about partners in retirement today. Interesting statistics. So we've got all of these numbers in front of us. This one really scared me. Most partners expect our couplehood to retire around 63, yet nearly half of the respondents said that they plan on working at least part-time all the way through retirement. Two different numbers already.
Yeah, right. And this is something that we see so frequently, is that couples really do have a different vision or desire for what they want that stage of life to look like. So finance and money is one of the leading causes of divorce. We all know that. We know that that is an obstacle that we have to overcome to protect and guard our marriages.
That's right.
So knowing that, we have to be proactive and be intentional in how we do that and how we have those conversations. Most of the times, financial conversations can become argumentative or kind of head to head. I want this, no, I want this, and this is what I think, no, this is what I think. But what we like to talk about, instead of having this head to head argumentative interaction, when you have to, because things have come to a head and you have to have the conversation, have those frequently and often, not the bad conversations, but the good ones where you say, hey, where do you envision us in 10 years? When our kids are, for example, for us, in 10 years, when our kids are in college and we are empty nesters, what is that going to look like? Taking time to kind of picture what that's going to look like and dreaming. So instead of financial fight sessions, have financial dream sessions. So flip it on its head. Take what's typically so negative and so heavy, flip it on its head and make it positive and actually work towards something that you can align on and dream on together so that you are on the same page and not having unrealistic expectations when you get to that stage.
Brittany, I also want to temper your expectations. There's a lot more kids who are coming back after college and staying with mom and dad, so I don't know how empty that nest is going to be.
We'll see about that.
Yeah. We also know that one of the top financial concerns for couples is saving enough money for that retirement. Then on the rest of the study, they said that 55% of respondents said they don't know how much that is.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, with inflation, with taxes, with longevity.
How do you know?
Are we looking for a number? Are we looking for 1.5 million today? Are we looking at 2 million?
Yeah, we're looking at much more than we were 10 years ago. I promise you that, just with inflation alone. But what we have to look at is, what does your spending plan look like today? Where does your debt load look like today? And then what's that going to look like in retirement, right? And then what's inflation going to do to that over time? So we have to come together on a number, but that number does not fully encompass you or who you are. I think it goes back to what Brittany said, what's your vision for retirement? Because, you know, is your vision to do more traveling in retirement? Is your vision to, man, I've traveled my whole working career, I just want to sit at home and fish during retirement, right? You need to have those conversations with your spouse, because that's going to dictate how much money you actually need, because how much money are we going to need to spend to live out the retirement dream that you have? And so we need to put together a realistic spending plan for now, through and to retirement, so that you know what you need at that point. And I think most people, over half, more than half, like you said, absolutely do not know what that number should be, because they haven't sat down to do the hard work. And that sometimes we find in these dream sessions that you talked about, they end up being fights more than not, that you need a referee involved in these things. And that's where we come in. We don't come in to say, hey, you're right and you're wrong. We come in to hear both perspectives and be a sounding board for both individuals, so that you and your partner can come to an agreement on, here's how we should be moving forward in this. And sometimes you need that third voice to be heard.
You're both financial advisors. Can I ask you, I mean, just there's got to be, as you've said, things that you disagree on. Instead of, I want to win, or this is, I need to make sure that they lose, rather than a win-lose, how do we look at it? Do we look at it as team effort? You know, look at it as goal effort? It's not me against you or me against your idea. It's how do we get our ideas? Is it about compromise, or is it just taking our emotions out of the financial decisions?
Well, you don't lose your individual identity within a marriage.
Sure.
You don't, right? It's the same with our finances. You don't have to shift all your opinions or your thoughts just because the other person thinks a different way than you, but you do have a joint mission or a joint vision or a joint goal, whatever that may be for you. It's going to look different for each one of you listening today. That's going to be very specific and really very personal as to what that looks like for you. So no, you're not going to see eye to eye. You're not going to agree on it all, but you do have those non-negotiables we talked about a bit earlier.
And
to
that
where you're
goal,
working
vision,
together.
that goal, vision, or purpose tends to become the grounding point for these conversations.
Right.
And so when you're having a discussion and we get in disagreements, we come back to those grounding points. What's our goal? What's our vision? What's our purpose for what we're talking about here? And sometimes we may need to get a third party involved to say, hey, am I seeing this wrong?
We do.
Am I seeing this right?
Right.
Like, is there
What am I
something going
missing?
on that I'm missing here? Because here's our goal, and this is what I'm trying to get to. This is what Brittany says we need to get to. Where am I missing it, right? And having an open mind, but ultimately knowing we're not against each other. I'm not trying to say I do not want you to have what you're asking for, and you don't want. Obviously, you don't want me to have what I want, right? But it's that we truly do want to flourish together for the same purpose.
And that's
goal.
why it brings so much joy when we can sit down with others who are in similar situations, who are, couples navigating this money thing, trying to figure it all out.
It's complicated.
Because we can take this 10,000-foot approach and this view to see the holds, to see the entirety of the picture, and take the emotions out of it. Because there are just real emotions, especially in the heat of those conversations. And we can kind of help distinguish between, okay, this is emotion and this is really the reality of where you financially stand. Distinguish the two, because that's when you can really make clear decisions. When you're able to kind of set some of those emotions aside, focus on what's true, what's the reality of our situation, and ensuring that you've got a way to get to where you want to be.
Planning for couples together, again, one of the reasons I think we're doing so much financial planning and discussion, TV, radio shows, seminars, and so forth, is because we didn't have the pension plans of our parents and our grandparents. So this is an outside question. Neither of you have any idea. This is not in the notes. Don't look down, Jay. I'm throwing this at you guys. I know that 40 or 50 years ago, there was probably one person working in the household, right? There was one main person, generally speaking. Today, by a percentage, just give 50%, 60%, how many times would you say that 56-year-olds are coming in and they're both working? One is working a little bit of part-time, one is maybe still full-time. Do you have a lot more people who are both partners? And the reason I'm asking is because this is why I think planning is so important. It's both of their money. It's not just one person getting to make the decisions anymore. It's, hey, this is both of ours. So do you see 50% of the people who come in both
It's more
working?
than 50%.
It's
typically.
increasing.
Yeah, it's more than it's a majority at this point. So it's more than 50% that both individuals are working because things are more expensive than they've ever been, right? It takes more to run a household than it did 10, 15 years ago, and it's going to take more going forward. And so I believe that number is going to continue to increase. It's more of a two-person household working situation than it ever has been. But we try to encourage people, even if you're in a situation with a single household income, you have to look at it as both, because there are invaluable things that the person who is not working a dollar for hour job has brought to save you a lot of money that you would have to do. So regardless, it's a psychological battle. But yes, we're seeing a lot more folks who are both bringing dollars to the table now, which is causing more discussion, right?
And this is where I'd really like to speak specifically to the women, because we sit with so many folks, and sometimes one other party, it doesn't matter which one it is, but a lot of times we find that one of the two are uninvolved and the other really takes the lead. That's okay. There's no right or wrong in that. But here's your call. If you have kind of leaned back in all of those conversations around your finances and money, here's your call to step into it. Here's your call to step up into it. Doesn't mean you have to, solely make the decisions. Doesn't mean you have to know all the ins and outs. Doesn't even mean you have to like it. But for your own sake, be informed, be involved in how your investments are positioned. Be involved in knowing, man, do I have the right legal documents? Be involved in when you're electing for pensions that you may have availability towards, to know that you are allowing for income to your spouse if something were to happen to you. Be involved in the process of decision making, because
at least understand.
Yes, at minimum be informed. Absolutely. No matter what side of the table you sit on, if you've taken control control, or if you've kind of leaned back and sat back in it, press in, because you will have to deal with this at some point in your lifetime. 95% of women will at one point be the sole financial decision maker in their household. So that is coming for most every woman on the planet. And why not be best prepared for those moments?
If you're sitting at home, if you're next to your spouse, I know what's going to happen during this commercial break. You're going to look at each other and go, do we have our retirement plan set?
That's right.
Talk to each other about it. And look, if money has been a stressor in your life, if discussing these things has always turned into someone staying on the couch for the night, look, you don't have to figure these things out by yourself. Call the phone number you see down on the bottom of the screen. This is one of the things that Jay and Brittany love to do, is bring couples together in their retirement planning. Call the phone number, or you can use the QR code if you like. Open up your phone to the camera function and point it at that black and white box there. It'll take you over to the website, and you can get started on your own Allon approach for retirement. More solutions on planning together as a spouse into retirement when we get back right after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life, and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to the Allon Exchange with Jay and Brittany Hagee, financial advisors and the founders of Allon Planning Partners. Today we're talking about spouses in retirement. How do we plan together? How do we make sure that we're on the same page together? Look, 51% of people who plan for retirement. By the way, this study was done with over 1,800 couples preparing for retirement, over 3,500 individuals, and over 51% of them said what kept them up at night was, how am I going to pay for health care costs in retirement? Doesn't Medicare take care of everything?
Well, it's a legitimate worry, right? If you do not have a health care plan, that's why it's one of our 5 core staples. You know, one of our 5 core staples is health care on purpose, because it is going to be a large expense as we get older. People are living longer than ever before, and because of that, you're going to need more health care, right? And so it's going to cost more money to live. And inflation affects health care about worse than anything on the planet, right? Food, utilities, healthcare. It's going to be inflated in cost. And so you have to have a healthcare plan. You have to know that you're covered on a long-term care situation, because if I have a healthcare need and all I have are my retirement funds to pay for it, right? My 401ks, my IRAs, I'm only allowed, if Brittany is still alive, about $140,000, one house and one car to keep. They'll make me spend down everything else in my assets before Medicare and Medicaid really steps in over above that. So healthcare costs will affect you in your retirement, and you have to have a plan going forward.
Yeah, it's a valid concern, but it can be addressed, and there's many ways to face those fears. And the biggest way to do that is just by acknowledging, hey, here's something we haven't thought about. And maybe many of you listening today are in that boat. Man, I hadn't thought about healthcare, or man, I hadn't thought about how income would continue for my spouse if something happens. Well, there's something you can do about it now. You can't change where you've been before, but you can look ahead and you can make adjustments moving forward. I mean, this same study, 47% of people were concerned about making enough income to live the lifestyle they wanted. 54% were concerned about having enough money saved, period, for retirement, ensuring, have I even saved enough? And that's keeping them up at night.
Hey, do you too, again, financial advisors, you do this all the time. Do you guys have a number in your head? Do you have a number in your head of what you want to hit? Or, I mean, because I know that you own a financial practice,
Sure.
but I mean, I always worry about people who put all of their retirement into their business. Do you have an account who said, you know, this is what we want to grow and this is what we're going for together? Is it about a number?
Yeah, we do have a number, but it's really based on our spending plan and our debt load, right? It's all in there together. It's not just like, hey, if we've got this much saved, we can live the rest of our life. Well, maybe, maybe not, depending on what our spending looks like going forward, right? And so we really do have a number, but it's based on our spending plan as well. So
Jay, you had one more thing.
I've got to hit it.
Yeah, you got to hit it because you said it's not.
I couldn't believe this study did not show this, because more people should be worried about it, and that's taxes. Yeah. Because besides our houses, typically our number 2 largest asset are tax-deferred accounts, and there's $38.4 trillion in the tax-deferred accounts. We should be worried about taxes. We are in an environment right now where taxes are low, but that's not going to last forever. And we tell couples this all the time. How are we going to make sure that you're not overpaying Uncle Sam with what's going on? And we talk about it. And so you should be worried just as much about how much I'm going to pay in taxes as you are about how much I'm going to pay in health care.
Because again, that number that you're asking about means nothing if you don't get to keep all that.
You don't own all of it.
If not all of it's yours, and you know, hey, 30% of that, 35% of that goes to the government, that's tax dollars, that reduces your number drastically. So you have to consider that when you're looking at that end-all be-all number.
So the dollar amount there, again, to go back for it, we do have one. But when I say spending plan, that becomes an income problem, right? You have to make sure that you have guaranteed income for life, or that you have some form to draw income off of your retirement dollars for life to really get you to that, I have this number, I can now retire.
And how many times is that eye-opening to one spouse or the other to say, oh, we've got $500,000 in that account, we've got $1 million in that account, and you say, no, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you really don't have that much.
It's not all yours. Yeah.
Yep.
And the last thing I'll say about this study as we wrap up today's show is that it was really interesting to see that the worry and concern and stressors over money increased the younger the respondents were. So we're seeing a pattern, we're seeing a trend develop, more worry, more concern, more fear over their dollars. The way to counteract that is by knowledge, by education, by understanding, and proactively planning to those concerns.
Couples work together. That's all I wanted to say to you. Couples work together. It's worth it to get to your goal quicker and easier when you work together.
Couples in retirement planning, you can work together by calling the phone number down on the bottom of the screen. I tell you what, one of you call the phone number, and then the other one, use your phone and use the QR code, and you can go right over to the website. You can learn more about the team. Thank you so much for watching, but make sure you get started on your own Allon approach. Call the phone number, claim your spot right now. Operators are standing by. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.